Ethan Cole spent 5 years building his fortune from nothing. He worked endless hours, invested wisely, and saved every cent he could. Then he met Amelia Hart online. Beautiful, kind, and seemingly devoted, she became the center of his world. They talked every day, shared dreams, and planned a future together. Amelia claimed she lived overseas and needed time before they could officially marry. Trusting her completely, Ethan began sending money whenever she faced an emergency. Hospital bills, legal troubles, family debts, there was always a reason. He never questioned her because he loved her. On the night he transferred the last of his savings, Amelia promised they would finally meet. Ethan waited at the airport for hours. She never arrived. At first, Ethan believed something terrible had happened. He called Amelia repeatedly, but her number was disconnected. Her social media accounts vanished overnight. Every photograph, every message, every trace of her disappeared. Panic turned into dread as he checked his bank accounts. Nearly everything was gone. More than $500,000 had been transferred over the years. Friends called him a fool when they learned the truth. The woman he considered his wife had never existed. Ethan spent sleepless nights staring at old messages, searching for clues he had ignored. Then he noticed a detail hidden in an email header. Amelia's location wasn't overseas. It was in his own city. Humiliation became Ethan's daily companion. Creditors demanded payments, investments collapsed, and former business partners abandoned him. Yet one question haunted him more than his financial ruin. Who was Amelia? He hired a private investigator with the last money he could borrow. Weeks later, the investigator delivered a shocking report. Amelia Hart was a fake identity used by a woman named Vanessa Pierce. Vanessa had scammed dozens of men under different names. However, Ethan's case was unique. She had spent years manipulating him. She hadn't merely stolen money. She had carefully studied his fears, desires, and weaknesses. Ethan realized he had not been a victim of opportunity. He had been chosen. The investigator warned Ethan to walk away. Vanessa was clever, wealthy, and protected by powerful connections. Several victims had tried exposing her, only to see their cases mysteriously disappear. But Ethan had already lost everything. Fear no longer mattered. He began studying Vanessa the same way she had studied him. He learned her routines, business dealings, and social circle. Publicly, she appeared successful and respected. Secretly, she maintained multiple identities and manipulated wealthy targets. Ethan discovered she was preparing her biggest scheme yet. She planned to marry a billionaire entrepreneur. For the first time since his downfall, Ethan smiled. If Vanessa wanted a new victim, she had chosen the wrong time. The investigator warned Ethan to walk away. Vanessa was clever, wealthy, and protected by powerful connections. Several victims had tried exposing her, only to see their cases mysteriously disappear. But Ethan had already lost everything. Fear no longer mattered. He began studying Vanessa the same way she had studied him. He learned her routines, business dealings, and social circle. Publicly, she appeared successful and respected. Secretly, she maintained multiple identities and manipulated wealthy targets. Ethan discovered she was preparing her biggest scheme yet. She planned to marry a billionaire entrepreneur. For the first time since his downfall, Ethan smiled. If Vanessa wanted a new victim, she had chosen the wrong time. Ethan reinvented himself. Using borrowed money and old connections, he created a new identity named Adrian Blake. Unlike the broken man Vanessa had exploited, Adrian was confident, mysterious, and wealthy. He entered the same elite circles she frequented and carefully positioned himself where she would notice him. It worked. Vanessa's attention shifted almost immediately. She approached him at a charity gala, unaware she was speaking to one of her former victims. Ethan forced himself to smile as she introduced herself under yet another fake name. Listening to her lies felt like swallowing poison. Yet he remained calm. Revenge was not about anger. Revenge was about patience. And his plan had finally begun. Vanessa, now calling herself Sophia Bennett, quickly grew interested in Adrian Blake. She flirted effortlessly, weaving the same charm that had once trapped Ethan. This time, however, Ethan saw every move. He noticed how she mirrored his interests, laughed at the right moments, and created small crises to test his generosity. Instead of falling into her web, he encouraged her confidence. The more she believed she controlled him, the less cautious she became. Within weeks, she began sharing details about her business ventures and wealthy acquaintances. Vanessa thought she was hunting another victim. She never realized she was slowly revealing the secrets Ethan had spent months trying to uncover. Ethan gathered evidence quietly. Every conversation was recorded, every transaction documented. He discovered that Vanessa operated with a small network of accomplices who helped create fake identities and forged documents. Together, they had stolen millions over the years. Yet exposing them immediately would only send them into hiding. Ethan needed something bigger. He wanted Vanessa to experience the same helplessness she had forced upon her victims. So he fed her a carefully crafted story about a secret investment opportunity worth tens of millions. Vanessa's eyes lit up whenever he mentioned it. Greed was becoming stronger than caution, exactly as Ethan had hoped. To strengthen the illusion, Ethan rented luxury cars, attended exclusive events, and allowed rumors about his wealth to spread. Vanessa became increasingly obsessed. She started canceling meetings and ignoring other targets to focus entirely on Adrian Blake. Meanwhile, Ethan uncovered another disturbing truth. Vanessa wasn't acting alone because she enjoyed money. She enjoyed power. Former victims described how she mocked them after ruining their lives. She collected their heartbreak like trophies. The discovery transformed Ethan's revenge from personal anger into a mission. Vanessa had destroyed too many lives. If he succeeded, dozens of people might finally receive justice. Vanessa made her move sooner than expected. One evening, she confessed that she had fallen in love with Adrian. Ethan nearly laughed at the irony. The woman who had faked affection for years was now pretending once again. He responded exactly as she wanted, claiming he felt the same. Their relationship intensified. Soon, Vanessa was discussing marriage and shared investments. She believed she was guiding Adrian toward the trap she had perfected countless times before. But each step brought her closer to the trap waiting for her. Ethan could see her growing impatient. Greed had begun clouding the careful judgment that once made her dangerous. Months of preparation finally reached a turning point. Ethan invited Vanessa to join his supposedly secret investment project. He claimed only a handful of trusted partners were involved. To participate, she would need to prove her commitment by contributing significant capital. Vanessa hesitated for the first time. Then greed won. Over several weeks, she transferred millions gathered from previous scams into accounts connected to the project. Unknown to her, every transfer created a paper trail investigators had been unable to establish for years. By the time she realized something was wrong, it would already be too late. Ethan's revenge was no longer a dream. It was becoming reality. Vanessa became completely invested in the scheme. She sold assets, liquidated hidden accounts, and even pressured her accomplices to contribute funds. Ethan watched carefully as the web tightened around her. Every transaction was monitored by investigators he had secretly partnered with. The evidence was overwhelming, but Ethan still waited. He wanted Vanessa to believe victory was within reach. She often spoke about the luxurious future she and Adrian would share. Listening to her fantasies reminded Ethan of the dreams she had once sold him. The difference was that this dream had been designed to collapse the moment she reached for it. One evening, Vanessa invited Ethan to a private celebration. She believed the investment would soon generate enormous returns. During the dinner, she revealed more than she intended. Wine loosened her tongue, and she bragged about manipulating wealthy men. Though she never used real names, her stories matched countless victims Ethan had researched. Hidden recording devices captured every word. As Vanessa laughed about ruined lives, Ethan felt his anger return. For a brief moment, he wanted to reveal himself and watch her panic. Instead, he remained silent. Patience had brought him this far. It would carry him to the end. A week later, Ethan received confirmation that law enforcement was ready to act. The evidence connected Vanessa and her network to years of fraud. Yet Ethan requested one final delay. He wanted the operation to expose every accomplice at once. Investigators reluctantly agreed. Meanwhile, Vanessa was already planning her next scam. She had no intention of spending her future with Adrian Blake. Secret messages revealed she intended to disappear after securing the investment profits. Reading them felt strangely liberating. Any lingering guilt vanished. Vanessa had never changed. She was simply following the same pattern that had destroyed countless lives before. The launch event for the investment project was scheduled at a luxury hotel. Wealthy guests, business leaders, and media representatives filled the grand ballroom. Vanessa arrived wearing a dazzling smile, convinced she was about to become richer than ever. Ethan greeted her warmly and led her toward the stage. Hidden among the guests were investigators, financial crime specialists, and several of Vanessa's former victims. She noticed none of them. Her attention remained fixed on the fortune she believed was waiting for her. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt completely secure. That confidence would become her greatest mistake. As the presentation began, large screens illuminated the ballroom. Vanessa expected investment reports and financial projections. Instead, photographs appeared, fake identities, forged passports, fraudulent transactions, victim testimonies. Her smile vanished instantly. Murmurs spread through the crowd as more evidence appeared. Ethan stepped onto the stage and calmly addressed the audience. Then he spoke the name she had not heard in years. "My name isn't Adrian Blake." Vanessa froze. The realization struck like lightning. The man standing before her was Ethan Cole. The victim she had discarded. The victim she thought she would never see again. The ballroom fell silent as Ethan revealed everything. Screens displayed years of messages, financial records, and recorded conversations linking Vanessa to dozens of scams. Her face drained of color while cameras captured every second. She tried denying the accusations, but the evidence was overwhelming. Investigators stepped forward, and several of her accomplices, seeing no escape, began blaming one another. For the first time, Vanessa looked genuinely afraid. Ethan remembered how helpless he had felt when she vanished with his life savings. Now the roles were reversed. The control she treasured so much was slipping from her hands. Vanessa attempted one final act of manipulation. She tearfully claimed she had been forced into the scams by dangerous people and begged for sympathy. Some guests looked uncertain, but Ethan had anticipated this move. Another recording played across the screens. In it, Vanessa laughed while describing how easily people trusted her. The room erupted with disgust. Her carefully crafted image shattered beyond repair. Security escorted her away as reporters rushed to document the scandal. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the weight on his chest begin to lift. Justice had finally started catching up with her. The investigation expanded rapidly. Hidden accounts were frozen, luxury properties were seized, and former victims came forward with new evidence. Vanessa's empire collapsed within weeks. Many people recovered at least part of what had been stolen from them. Ethan was among them. The returned funds could never restore the years he had lost, but they gave him a chance to rebuild. More importantly, he no longer felt trapped by the past. The woman who had controlled his thoughts for so long was no longer a shadow hanging over his life. She was simply another criminal facing consequences. Months later, Vanessa stood trial. Witness after witness described the devastation she had caused. Families had broken apart, businesses had failed, lives had been ruined. Throughout the proceedings, Vanessa remained cold and defiant, refusing to accept responsibility. Yet the verdict was unavoidable. She was found guilty on multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, and financial crimes. As the sentence was announced, she finally looked toward Ethan. There was no remorse in her eyes, only bitterness. Ethan returned her stare calmly. He no longer needed an apology. Her punishment was not his revenge. It was the result of her own choices. A year later, Ethan stood on the balcony of his new office overlooking the city. His business was growing again, built on hard work rather than obsession. Friends who had once drifted away slowly returned, and new opportunities appeared every day. Sometimes he thought about Vanessa and the years he had wasted chasing a fantasy. But those memories no longer hurt. They reminded him of a lesson he would never forget: trust should be earned, not blindly given. As the sun set across the skyline, Ethan smiled. He had lost everything once. Yet in the end, he had gained something far more valuable: his freedom.